That observation and what you just voiced is kind of also why I'm leaving Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, because I spent 15 years here as sort of the leader in yoga and meditation and water movement, water education, and I watched really rich men pass away at 65, 70 years old, which I'm not happy about. But these were men that didn't take anything I had to say seriously. What
Hmm.
legacy are they leaving? And as I leave here, I leave with this imprint of information of higher conscious leaders need to have healing strategies. Healing is not just like, I'll do a weekend workshop or I'll
Yeah.
do this. It's incorporated in so that you understand
Yeah.
everything you do is imprinted here when you leave.
Hmm.
It's karma. It's whether you believe in, reincarnation, whether you believe in, your soul database. So there's no getting out of it. Even if you think your ego's, and your greed and the devil's inside of you, and you think, oh, I'll get away with, frauding out this amount of money or doing this. There's no way out. And I really know that because I've had a really unique life and career. And now that I'm healthy, I'm able to speak about it and have the boundaries and the safety to speak about it. But I've seen a lot. Like I've heard a lot from all walks of life. And, one of the things about the state of PA, which, I showed you on my Facebook page, I just did this 9-video series. And it's for anybody that wants to lead in their own life and be a leader, but it's also to understand that this is just a basic fundamental educational system, that there's hundreds of breath patterns and meditations that should be taught in public school systems, that should be taught with our leaders so that they're not going for the quick fix, that they actually have it all in them so that they are the healer scientists and they have billions of dollars and they say, I'm not going to keep creating franchises that kill them. I'm not going to keep creating products that kill us. I'm not going to destroy Mother Earth anymore. Like this is all webbed together. And part of my thing with Pennsylvania is we used to have healing water. It's documented in the 1700s. And I believe, there is documentation to say Germany came over and killed the natives. And then they stole the medicine, they stole the water, created a resort. Like there's pictures of this huge resort where all the rich from around the world would come to drink the healing water in the state of PA. And what did they do with bottling it? They sold it. And that began the corruption of water. And that links into characters that started the medical system in the government. And that linked into characters that started, so, and I think about this and I've lectured on this. I've done free talks and tested water. And it's just like one ear out the other. And it
A lot of
affects
people,
us
yeah.
all. I mean, if you
Hmm.
look at my pictures, I'm anti-aging every day. And it's not just because of all the other work. It's because I don't drink the water that the city's giving us. I don't even go to the healing centers. Like I went into a cold plunge a couple times and they had chlorine in it. And I peed out and smelled those chemicals because I'm so clean inside. And I think to myself, so Bedford Springs, have you ever heard of it? It's in the state
Mm-mm.
of PA. Bedford Springs, if you look it up, it's a really fancy resort. And it's where all the government officials used to go back in the day. There's beautiful land there. And I went there probably like 4 years ago. And I went there because it was notated to have mineral spring waters to swim in. Like this was notated. And when I went there, and I actually went with one of my Japanese medical water devices, and I go in and I get into my room, and then I find two maintenance guys. And I say, hey, is there any way to hook this up? Because I was like detoxing everything at that time. And when you come from as much trauma as I do, you have to be diligent. Like everything, I wanted to be better. And so these guys were like, well, we can't hook it up in the bathroom, but we'll hook it up in the employee kitchen. And so they take me down the hidden, passageway, and I'm in the employee kitchen. And I sit with these maintenance guys for like hours, and they tell me that I'm there's no mineral water here anymore. The politicians came in and regulated that we put chlorine in it
And other chemicals.
and other chemicals. And they'd
Hmm.
say you'd be better off going across the street and swimming in the river. And then we started talking about healing and Reiki energy work. And these men were really interested and they were intrigued by me because they were like, "You traveled with this machine to hook it up for your health?" And I was like, "Well, I have to. Like,
Mhm.
I have brain damage and I'm healing it right now. Like, I don't have choices." Like, and so,
It's not always one ear and out the other then. There are people who are very much interested and very much looking for this and very active in trying to make changes. It's kind of like in The Matrix where Morpheus is explaining to Neo that you can't unplug everybody.
good
There's a lot of
advice.
people who are still dependent on the system that, oppresses and enslaves them in lots of ways. And they're so dependent on it that they'll fight to defend it.
Yeah.
And yeah, not everybody's ready for it. But here, you're finding people. There are people out there who are ready to listen to this and ready to and
You
are
know
actively
what?
playing
You were
into it.
so accurate because, and I was just in a pre meeting for a podcast show. And the gentleman, we got on and he was like, "I'm just going to apologize. I have a severe migraine." And I could tell he was inflamed. I could see a mirror of who I was. And I was like, "Thank you for being transparent. No problem." He's like, "I didn't even get to go through your notes. Can you just," and I went through some notes. And for some reason, I got on the water. It must be the day today. And he said, "I have a plumber that's looking for water filtration systems that wants to install them. I'm going to give them your ebook." And I was like, "Oh, cool." You know what I mean? So it's just like
Yeah.
clicking in. And I think for so many years, I felt like there were so many obstacles. But I think now that I've cleaned out so much, I just go delete, 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 and I'm
Yeah.
just ready to find the ones that are ready.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. When you started talking about this, you were talking about the leadership with people in
Yeah,
terms of leading their own lives and leading these institutions. And I think what we're really seeing right now in terms of like looking at the national level and the global level political shifts that are happening right now, dialing in just a little bit into the United States,
yeah.
we're very much at this juncture point where the institutions, the system, the entire structure was based on this colonial expansionism that you were talking about. And so all of this country is based on ideas. The ethnicities, the religions, the cultures that were here have all been decimated and washed away and co opted into the globalist expansionist ideology.
Mm,
And now what we're starting to see is the people who are living here, who were born here, are now becoming victims to that exact same ideology, where people from other places in the world are coming here, taking the resources and sending them back. And now all these people are like, WTF?
right.
So we're starting to realize there's a bit of a junction that's happening here where we're realizing on a much larger level, I think a lot of people are starting to question this. To what degree they're questioning it is to be questioned, but a lot of people are starting to think about it. And what we're starting to see is which way are we going to go? And this is getting really important because, in terms of leadership, like you're talking about, I mean, this was a big part of the studies in my graduate degree, which was really looking at transformational or evolutionary leadership, is what Frederick Laloux, this wonderful researcher in terms of organizations, looks at. And what we really have right now are traumatized people acting out that trauma in ways that they adapted to it. So if I'm powerless as a child, if I'm never good enough, if I can never meet the expectations, I can never get the love, the acceptance, the respect, the value, what do? Well, I go become good enough. I go out in the world and I make myself very big and grandiose so you can't hurt me and you will respect me. And I'm going to go accumulate all the wealth and all the status and all the power to try to fill that pain, to soothe that pain that I originally felt. Then the problem is we keep perpetuating that exact same system. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right in terms of leadership and individual levels is it's really important to start to look at. What are we carrying around and what are we projecting into the world? In terms of water, I think about it all the time, just how little respect we have for something that's so important. And for anybody who's like, oh no, I respect water and that kind of stuff. Well, do you defecate in it? Yeah, because I don't think that we respect things that we take craps in. Oh,
Right. Yeah, and I fell into, I mean, we could go for hours, but I fell into understanding and training in water 15 years ago, which was definitely God sent.
mhm,
And I watched major trauma, stroke clients that would have been disabled the rest of their life get on not just clean water, but the Japanese medical device, which has
yeah,
7 different types of waters, and within 6 weeks, their tremors were gone. That's
yeah.
really what woke me up, and then it became a mirror. I
Isn't
think
that
too,
incredible?
recently in my YouTube, videos, I've been really starting to project out New Earth governors and New Earth government, and
Hmm.
that's what inspired me to start, like, doing the series that's free for YouTube, like
Yeah,
it's like the beginning library of understanding how to regulate yourself, like you said, how to build your immune system, how to go into your intuition and build on that. But for me, it's like I want to inspire the next new earth governor of Pennsylvania. That's somebody that's going to look at the history and say, how did we get so far away? Where
yeah,
now we're bottling plastic stuff all day long. The mental health crisis is large. We know we have plastic in our blood. How did we lose that? And how do we then? I mean, I don't know if we can ever get the healing water back, to be honest with you. I don't know how Mother Earth works. I know that until we respect her, she may not give us,
yeah.
some things back. We may have to go and, I think there's like you said, like a disrespect we've had for so long.
Yeah,
And when you're like when you're traumatized from concussions and sports and you're more acidic in general, and a lot of people don't realize, like, I think I said this in my last talk with you, like, brain work was really hard for me and my clients. We needed extra things, I had to get on a really good organic, and I really don't eat a lot of the food in the grocery store either, which is another subject matter. And it's challenging, but now that I'm healthy and my body's moving better than it has before, I'm now gonna be putting on these free programs on YouTube and trying to attract in, manifest in leaderships. Let's start getting results. Let's
yeah.
start, you do this. Like the guy that I talked to today when he said, I have a plumber. I said, great, read my ebook. If he agrees, great. If he doesn't, if he disagrees, I'd love to hear his feedback on it because that's what healers do. We want to hear feedback. Well,
Yeah.
what science or what did you do? Because I'm going from experience of many, many clients
It
and
depends on
seeing
if we
how,
can listen to feedback or if we're too stiff and rigid from our trauma where we can't hear it. And if we receive any feedback, well, that means that I'm not good enough and I can't handle that. That's
right.
that's a lot of the leadership. I
That's
mean,
a good
think
point.
about how many doctors, medical professionals will say we need the chemicals in the water.
I know.
They're in favor of forced medication. And I've talked to so many of them, doctors who will openly tell you they are against fascism and all of these authoritarian regimes that are controlling the United States, but we have got to put fluoride in the water and you have got to get these brand new vaccinations and you can't argue or ask any questions about it. And if you do, then you need to be locked up or lose your job. You see where I'm getting with that is the
Yeah.
thing that they claim to be against, the thing that they're trying to fight, in the process of fighting it, they've become the thing that they're against. And they don't even see it.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And that's the case with so many of these leaders that we're working with right
Right.
now, is we've got, I mean, right now, for instance, something I was talking with Claire about earlier is a lot of people are talking about the spiritual warfare that's going on right now. And they're talking about it here in the United States or in the Western world in particular, where the Western countries have adopted this form of liberalism welcoming and bringing in all sorts of different perspectives, ideas, religions, customs.
Hmm.
And the Muslim cultures have said, they've adopted a
Mhm.
more conservative one where they say, we are a Muslim culture. You do not come and bring your Christianity in here. Not okay. And if you're trying to convert Muslims into Christianity, I mean, that can be punishable by death. So,
Hmm.
so here we have these Islam and Muslim cultures coming in and spreading their views and it taking over. So you're seeing the same dynamics of the colonial globalist expansionism happening to the people who originally did it. And
Hmm.
so everybody's talking about this spiritual warfare right now is the way they're talking about it, about God and Christianity against the devil, Satan, so on and so forth. And I'm always thinking about it to myself, and I can rarely ask anybody this because they get very defensive if they're really religious, but it's widely accepted in Christianity, for instance, that the devil never presents himself as the devil. He doesn't come to you and say, I'm the devil and I'm going to make you and everybody else suffer if you do what I want. Because, I mean, some people will gladly follow that, but the vast majority wouldn't. What he does is he presents himself as the thing that you crave the most.
Yes.
He's a shapeshifter. And he's
Yes.
very intelligent. So he presents as Christ or as
Yes.
Saint Peter. And he says, I am going to give you all these things. You're going to serve me. You're going to serve God. You're going to be the sword of Christianity. And we are going to fight those people. And we're going to stop all of this wretchedness that's spreading around the world. It's always a fight. It's always a war. It's a spiritual war, as they call it now. So do you ever consider that it might be a possibility that you're not serving Christ, but you're serving the war god pretending to be Christ? Because in my
Yes.
people's culture, Wet'supuchitili is the war god, and he is a shapeshifter, and he plays this exact game right here. He presents as the thing that you crave the most, the the ideology that you cling to the most, and he presents or portrays that, and then manipulates you into this other way of doing things, which is for his end game, which is the way the vast majority of the leadership goes. Just like the doctors saying, I'm against fascism, I'm against authoritarianism, but I'm in favor of forced medication. I'm in favor of using authority to get you to do my way of thinking. And if you disagree with me, I will use force against you. So they don't see that they're the thing that they claim to be against. It's all over right now. We're seeing it everywhere, it seems like. And yeah, that's the junction that we're at, is who's going to see this and who's going to start to step away from this, but
I
down a
love
dark
what you just
path.
voiced. Thank you so much. That was so much wisdom. And I really resonate with it because in book 2 of this series, I go into the workplace and I've been
Hmm.
exposed to a lot of things that will shock people.
Yeah.
And really shocked me early on, 15. I was naive, you know, to see what people do. And it's interesting because my role is I I'm not in one tribe, I guess. I see it in the religion, I see it in the shamans, I see it in the yogis, I see it
Yeah.
in the health,
Everywhere.
I see it everywhere. Like, and
Everywhere.
I don't put everyone in those categories then because I am all these things, but I see it as more of a purity, a pure-hearted soul, but I see a lot of lying and a lot of manipulation,
Yeah.
control, and that comes from what we originally said and what you beautifully said early on, which is childhood or generational traumas.
Yeah.
And because we have a
Precisely.
failed system, like, we have, one of the things this gentleman said today, which I thought was really interesting, is he's like, well, basically, what I'm hearing from you is you have all these sciences, but maybe there is a way to go about them that we're not just picking off of
Uh-oh.
a
Did I
tree. Like,
lose
I
you?
appreciate all the sciences, but I would like to get to the result of healing all of it faster if possible. And he's like, the roots is you're mostly water. So you're saying you're drinking this water. And then the next thing is you're breathing, you're changing breath patterns for your nervous system. And then the next thing is, so it's interesting feedback for me
Still got
from
audio?
this
Yep.
gentleman. Um, I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah. It does look like, though, I got you on a couple different tabs. Could you close one of those out? And because you're in twice here. Oh, there we are. Perfect.
Okay. Great.
All right.
I'm so happy.
Yeah, you're allowed to have them both, right? Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason why you reached out to talk was you mentioned it just a minute ago. The second volume of your book is out. You want to tell me about it? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm. All right, hold on. Slow down for a second here. I know. We're really excited, but let's have a conversation about this so we can ask some questions and go into it. All right. I got so many questions I want to ask you already, but what what you just got into, you said, okay, I want to make a lot of money in 2026, and you're stating it now. I think a lot of people out there have a very challenging relationship with money. Some people are so greedy and hungry, and for the reasons that I mentioned earlier, right? They're going to fill all of the pain that they're carrying. They're going to soothe all the pain with the money. And then on the other hand, the complete opposite side is maybe you grew up with somebody who was like that, and so now people are completely repulsed by it and resistant to it and closed off to it. But now I'm hearing you saying that you're opening up to it. And this sounded like it was intimately intertwined with the process of your book, including the title here. Tell me, what did this look like for you when you were opening up and saying out loud, I want to make a lot of money? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure. Mm-hmm. What's this anger then? You said you're fed up, and it seemed like there was something that. Mm, sure, I gotcha. 'Kay. Mhm. Mhm. Mm. Sure. Mhm. Sure. Presentation. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. I'm very curious, how do you envision creating such a thing? Because there's so many people who have contradictory ideas about these types of things, and, here you're talking about this holistic franchise, and it's a facade. It's just the tax write-off dressed up as health, and we see this in so many areas. So many, I mean, I don't wanna say too much because I don't want the person who I was talking to listen to this and then be like, "Oh, he's talking about me." But in Portland, there are so many fake pseudo healers, spiritual communities, and now it's getting to the point, it's terrible, where you have sexual predators, who very much present themselves, just like we were talking about earlier, as the war god, presenting himself as Christ, but then gonna everything that he's gonna have you do is in favor of war. You have sexual predators becoming therapists or healers or shamans or gurus in that sense. I'm just so curious. What are you thinking about in terms of navigating all of that in your creation here? Hmm. Like the plumbers that you were talking to. Mhm. Yeah. I mean, you were talking about the plumbers that were very much in tune with what you were working on. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Tell me about it. Mm-mm. You don't have to be an expert these days. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, well, the whole system's based on it, and that's why nobody ever uncovered the truth of that investigation is because the experts are they're trained and indoctrinated in a sense through the system itself, so they become agents of that system. And that's why you have doctors who are sworn to help people causing more negative outcomes than they are helping. That's why you have doctors who say they're in terms of freedom and liberty and choice. My body, my choice, unless it comes to forced medication, in which case you need to get what I think you need to get. So there's these dynamics of the system. The fingerprints are all over every aspect of it. Yeah. 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 You're bringing up a really good point. A few minutes ago, when I was asking you about how are you going to, how are you taking care during building these creations that you're looking for, this community that you're looking for, you said, I'm psychic, I'm a medium, I'm in tune with the divine goddess, all of these terms, and I think it could be a lot simpler than that. And I think that a lot of people hear those things and like, well, I'm not a psychic, I'm not a medium, so I'm screwed. Or, I don't know what a divine goddess is or a divine mother. I have no idea. I've never seen any of that. When I'm working with people, I very frequently ask them, have you ever had a gut intuition that you didn't listen to and later on it turned out you should have listened to it? And they always, of course, who doesn't have that? See, we have these basic survival instincts that are hammered in. They're not hammered in. They've developed over the course of billions of years to thrive and navigate our environment because humans lived in nature up until the blink of an eye ago. And how long do you survive in nature if you're not in tune with your gut intuition? And so you don't have to be a psychic or a medium or in tune with, all these higher dimensional things in order to know if something's good or bad for you or if there's harm that's coming your way. We just need to practice tuning back into the body. And this disconnecting from the body is a trauma response because when you go through pain and you don't have the resources to navigate it, you can't make it stop. You can't go away physically. You go away mentally. We check out. And so, in terms of leadership, if we're going to lead others, we have to be present with others. We have to be able to see what they're going through. We have to be able to understand what they're experiencing and make choices to help them in their best interest. And how in the world could we be present with somebody else if we can't be present with ourselves? And that's what you're talking about right now in terms of watching this documentary. I haven't seen the documentary. I don't know what it is. But if it's uncomfortable and it's speaking people's truths and you want to be a leader, I think, yeah, it is really important to be able to be present with what you're experiencing and what you're feeling as a prerequisite to be with somebody else. Hmm. Oh, yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it is. They always come with the answers. Programming. Yeah. Yeah, that's very important, Heather. The answers are always inside of us. And my personal philosophy is I'm always very skeptical of anybody who has an answer or tries to tell you their answer. I mean, luckily, when I first started going to college, I went to community college and a very, very cheap community college in Detroit and had some fantastic teachers there. And one of them in particular was very adamant about teaching us about bias in authoritarian senses in information. So I really, really started getting into, and I was already really looking into that, like reading things like Noam Chomsky's thought control through the media. But the vast majority of us don't see that these answers are coming through in a coercive, authoritarian way. And yeah, that's something to be very, very skeptical of. I don't think that the answers are ever out there. They're always inside of us. Of course, in a functional society, if we want to have a democracy, let's say, one of the criteria of the democracy is one that's called the criteria of competence, meaning that I can give my consent to the authority over me to somebody who knows how to do something better than me. So when I get on a plane, I give my consent to the pilot. I say, I don't know how to fly this plane. Please get me there safely. And then when the flight is over, I withdraw my consent and I say, you no longer have authority over me. And I think that that's an essential way, but we need to be able to have the ability to discern who we give consent to and then be able to pull it back. But so many of these groups, leaders, healers, organizations, they get very cult like in the sense of we're going to create that codependence that you were talking about. And it's very challenging to have any sort of individuality in that, let alone say, okay, no, I shouldn't be here. Tara Brach wrote about this in her book Radical Acceptance, where she was living at an ashram, I think it was, or a monastery, and yeah, she was very much into that whole cult, and they had very much preyed on and um, nurtured this sense of unworthiness, and oh, you'll get it through us, and it's very, very challenging to see that and step away from it. But yeah, if we're going to be involved in any sort of organization or as leaders, we got to be able to see those things. And the way I see it is by listening carefully to what we're experiencing. Mm, hmm. Everything says go, 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 fast, 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 produce, do everything right now. Slow is, it's almost, it's unbearable for a lot of people. Yeah, slowing down, making time. This is so important to make yourself a priority. To say, even if it's something small, like I'm going to take 5 minutes 3 times a day for myself, where I'm not going to scroll. I'm not going to look on the computer. I'm not going to listen to my phone. I'm not going to check my emails. This is time for me to sit. I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to turn my attention into my internal state. And just take a temperature and see what's going on. Where am I tense? Where is their anxiety? Where is their panic? This is something that needs my attention, and I'm going to pay attention to it for this 5 minutes. And if you do that 3 times, it's 15 minutes. I know I watch more than 15 minutes of stupid videos on YouTube all day that don't serve me. So, this slowing down and making ourselves a priority is crucial in terms of really reconnecting with ourselves. Because again, if you want to be there with others or you want to be in tune with the world around you, the water, the nature, whatever it is, first and foremost, you got to be able to be with yourself. That's impressive. That's very impressive. Yeah. Hmm. Discipline. Hmm. Now, see, I find that when I talk about meditation, I say, well, I meditate for 2 hours, let's say, just like you do right there. A lot of people are just like, oh my God, I can't do 30 seconds. And, when I started trying to meditate when I was in my mid 20s, I was trying to hold my attention to just focus without my mind getting so active and just pulling me away to the disconnect. So my meditation was I'm going to be present, I'm going to be here. And when I could do that for 10 seconds, I celebrated. I mean, and it took me months of very, very hard discipline, work, practice, persistence, patience to be able to hold my attention for 10 seconds. Yeah. Yes. Hmm. Do you walk through these in your book? Hmm. Hmm. Should do it at the airport. Hmm. Yeah. 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 Celebrate it. We really need to celebrate because I think a lot of people, when we want to learn something, and I mean, we can be so harsh to ourselves and such critics and evaluatory and punitive to ourselves where, okay, I want to learn how to play guitar and then I try and move my fingers and I say, oh my goodness, I can't do anything like that. Or, okay, I want to learn how to, I don't know, do a horse stance and I start squatting and it's like, oh, my hips haven't moved this way in years. I can never do that. But that's not going to get us anywhere. We have to take the little tiny steps each time and say, okay, I'm going to practice move my finger. I'm standing here. I'm going to move my hips and my knees. I'm going to do a little squat. And then when we get to a certain point where we can do something that we couldn't do a week ago, a month ago, yes, that's to be celebrated because I'm making a progression. And there is a version of me that now exists that didn't exist very not too long ago. So if we can be kind to ourselves through this practice and persistent and compassionate while we're doing it and saying, I can't do it now, but if I can continue to practice and be persistent with this every chance I get, there's a version of me in the future who can do the thing I can't do now. And that might be a month down the road. It might be a year down the road. It might be 20 years down the road, but I'm working towards that. And this idea, you mentioned something about this earlier, just accomplishing something, just like I did this thing is very, very validating. I mean, I wash the dishes by hand. Yeah, I have a dishwasher. I don't use it because I think washing the dishes are a better experience. And I get to say, okay, there's dishes there and I accomplished the thing, no matter how small it is. And then I can celebrate and say, I did a good job. Super important in terms of this is how we can build the progression when it's really challenging. Hmm. Yeah, you have to. I mean, okay, so if we grow up in environments like you mentioned or like I mentioned where we weren't even supposed to be born, right? And then, we're always told that we're burdened, we're not worthy, we're not welcome, we're not safe. How in the world can you treat yourself differently than that right there when that's all that you've ever known? That is what compassion, that is what connection, that is what love looks like. So, yeah, we have to really start to redefine what this self relationship looks like. And it can be really hard, it can be really challenging, and very much worthwhile when we start to learn, like, okay, I'm going to be my own cheerleader, or I'm going to give myself the care, the support, the validation, the acceptance, the encouragement that I needed when I didn't have it. I think this is kind of similar to what you were talking about, where you're playing with the timelines in your book, where your awareness of what you have now goes back in time as a child, and you can navigate those experiences with this current awareness. Precisely. If you want to be with others, if you want to be with the environment, the world around you, first and foremost, you've got to practice being with yourself. It's the best gift we can give to ourselves, and it's the best gift you can give to anybody else. Your presence. Mhm. Exactly. Yeah, precisely. Mhm. Yeah. There is always something there. And then they continue those patterns, they treat other people that same way. I worked in dementia care too. I was doing cognitive assessments for people who had mild cognitive impairment who were progressing in through dementia. And then I worked in a trauma unit where I was there specifically to take care of addictions and trauma care, emotionally, but mainly dementia care. And every single person that I've ever met who was losing their memory had terrible trauma that had gone unprocessed and had been disconnected and buried, and it had gotten the ways of disconnecting from it had gotten so numb, the substance that they were using to disconnect whatever it was, they had gotten a tolerance to it. And so eventually the body had kicked in and said, I can't keep doing this anymore. And there goes the memory. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Isn't that incredible? Yeah. Let's hear it. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Before we do it, tell me, define hot anger in the brain for anybody who doesn't know what that means. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. So just to clarify, this is a meditation for people who are working with people who have dementia, not for the people who have the dementia themselves. Is that what you're saying? Like, so when you're working with somebody who's getting activated. Okay. Okay. Uh-huh. Gotcha. Okay. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Hmm. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. So hold on. So we had ego, intelligence, patience. What was the 4th one? Creativity and expression or communication. Okay. Mhm. Okay. Or we can have a hyper meditation too. That's okay. Lovely. I hope that anybody listening tries that out too. I really appreciate your voice in saying that. I can see why this would be so good for dementia. Um, when I was in the hospital or in dementia care, we'd have these nurse practitioners. They were usually the ones who would take care of the dementia patients. They would come in and they would stand over them and just yell at them like they were little kids. And I was like, oh, here we go. And I was usually the one who was in charge of taking care of them. And I'm just thinking how nice it would have been to have somebody there who could say something so soothing and comforting and just walk them through an interactive, engaging process and practice like that, how useful and helpful that could be. Hmm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, it was important. Things that are important that really resonate with them and are helpful and valuable, they will remember. They will grab onto it and gravitate towards it. I mean, these people with dementia, they'd remember my name too. They couldn't remember half the people there, and they were like, "Who are you? Are you the captain of the ship that we're on?" You know, and but they would remember me. Funny how that works. Mhm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they are not tethered to the things that program or distract the majority of people here, children and elderly, very much in tune with that. Isn't that crazy? I mean, I've same thing. Like they'll say things, just like start saying some random things, and most people just dismiss that as, oh, that's just dementia nonsense. But I'm like, no, they're using names and things that are happening in my life that they don't know about. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I always enjoy connecting with you, Heather. I'm really glad that we got to do this again. Each time we talk, yeah, it's quite a joy to get to know more and more about you. Thanks for sharing all of this. Before I stop the recording, tell people once again where can they find your work, where can they find this book, and of course, I will link this in the show notes as well. Fantastic. What a wonderful gift. Very good, Heather. Thank you so much. It's again been a joy talking with you. I'm just gonna stop the recording here, but hang out with me for a minute.